With the courage to begin and the discipline to endure, victory becomes a matter of time. See, what nobody told me is that there's a cost to ambition. There's a price to success that nobody talks about. What's the price? Well, Chris Williamson says it's the lonely chapter.
There is a period in everybody's journey where they are so different because they've started to do new things that they no longer fit in with their old set of friends.
See, the other day I was in the gym,
But they're not sufficiently developed that they've gained their new set of friends.
and while my friend was mid-set, I seen he had a quote on his lock screen that ultimately inspired me to make this video. The quote was, "If it was easy, everyone would do it."
And that means the harder it is, the bigger the dragon, the more epic the story.
And why I thought that quote was so powerful is because it brought me back to a period of time where I was experiencing the same thing you probably are right now.
Success is something that's a very lonely path in this world.
A period where I suppressed my true ambitions and personality so that I could pretend to fit in.
Because few are willing to make that down payment of pain for that futurement of success, the better life. Very few are.
A period where I felt constant fear and doubt about whether bettering myself was even worth it, and a period where I was constantly questioning myself, thinking, why am I doing this?
You fail 1,000 times before you succeed. Every single person has.
Why don't I just settle for average?
It's the losers that fail once and quit.
But I recently heard this Kobe Bryant story that helped me realize that this is just the cost of ambition. This is just the period everyone goes through in order to build a character who's capable of achieving their goals. In the video, I think he's still a teenager at the time, but he's speaking in front of a class and says, due to a lack of communication with my peers, I was never invited to parties or friendly gatherings on the weekend. So on Fridays and Saturdays, I would go in my rec room with my basketball and basically dribble myself to sleep. And then he went on to say, I think that was one of the best things that could have ever happened to me, because during those lonely hours in the rec room, I discovered the hunger, the motivation, and the desire to become the best basketball player that I could be. And of course, he didn't say it with a thick Irish accent, but what he said showed me that this chapter is hard for everyone. And that's the thing about this chapter. It is hard. But don't you like that it's hard? Because as the quote on my friend's phone said, if it was easy, everyone would do it.
The loser and the winner both fail. It's just that the winner gets back up and does it again.
See, for me, this chapter started over 4 years ago, when I decided to create the channel that you're currently watching. And I'd like to say I'm near the other side of this chapter, and that's for a few reasons. See, one of the most important questions I've had to consistently ask myself during this period is, are you strong enough not to fit in? Because if I'm being honest, up until a few months ago, I wasn't. Up until a few months ago, I let anyone and everyone's opinions influence my decisions. Like, I started this channel in 2020, but up until September of last year, I sabotaged my own success out of the fear of not fitting in. Like, I remember years ago telling my mom I don't want to go to university because I want to do YouTube. But you can imagine how that conversation goes when you've less than 200 subscribers and your mom barely knows what the word means. And obviously, I was nowhere near confident enough to bet on myself and not do what all my friends were doing. So what did I do? I took a university degree I didn't care about whatsoever. But the interesting thing I've learned from Chris Williamson recently is that pretending to fit in is actually a paradox. Because the more you try to fit in, the more you feel like you don't. Like, pretending to fit in caused me to spend 2 years in a uni degree, not because I was learning or considering to pursue it as a career path, but because it provided me with a sense of comfort and security. But see, what I've came to realize is that the things we often appreciate and look back on with the most satisfaction in our lives are the things that were difficult. Wouldn't you agree? There are moments of discomfort where we didn't know if we were going to pull it off or not. There are times we gave it everything we had with no guarantee of success on the other side. And this thread I found on Reddit confirmed to me that there really is no other option but to chase your ambition. The guy said, when you're 83 in your retirement home, do you want the reality to be that you have to tell your grandchildren you didn't live your life to the fullest because you were scared of what others might think of you? Or do you want the reality to be that you did what you wanted, when you wanted, and lived one hell of a life because of it? People will quite literally not chase the life that they desire due to the simple fear of random strangers not agreeing or not understanding what it is that they are doing. And he went on to say, say, how do you make sure you don't fall into this trap? Well, you need to make sure that you are consciously questioning every decision that you make and asking the question, am I making this decision because it aligns with what I want in life, or am I making it because it aligns with what others want? And see, that's the thing. If you are unable to clearly identify that you are making this decision for yourself, then realistically, you're probably not. Because I know firsthand that it's so much easier to not question every decision, but it's worth it. And look, one of the best ways I found for getting through this chapter is to learn to accept who you are. That means accepting your ambitions, even if they're uncomfortable. Because really and truly, there comes a point in every person's life where you have to decide, are you gonna do what will make everyone else like you, or are you gonna do what will allow you to accept yourself? Like, I know in my last few videos, I've sounded like an Alex Hormozy quote book. Trust me, I know. But again, I learned another fascinating concept from him that really shifted my perspective. He mentioned that if life is one big game of self-acceptance, then the earlier we can just learn to accept our own peculiarities as part of us, then the sooner you're able to become who you really are. And personally, I believe the best way I found for getting comfortable being yourself is to build your confidence. How do you do that? Well, I think you grow your confidence by developing trust in yourself. And I've learned you build trust in yourself when you consistently do the things you say you're gonna do. That means if I say I'm getting up at 6 a.m, I get up at 6 a.m. And once you do that, you ultimately give yourself a reason to feel confident. Because I found that when you're able to trust yourself, you no longer have that gnawing voice in the back of your head telling you you're not good enough and you can't do it. And so you start to feel comfortable in your own skin. And I'm not gonna say I don't still have doubt and nerves at times, but it really is a lot less. And one of the most difficult things about the cost of ambition is that there's times you don't feel like you relate to the people around you. Not in a sense that you're any better than them, because at the end of the day you're not, but I found that it's just because you end up becoming so focused on improving yourself and achieving your goals that an inevitable disconnect is created. And that's because you start to have less things in common. But that's why I think this chapter is so important for learning to be yourself. Because it's through truly being yourself that you find those like-minded people. You find those people who push you daily and help you become better. Because the fastest way to not achieve what you want in life and not become who you really want to be is to hang around people who are no good for you and aren't striving to be any better. Like, there's this great quote I heard, if you can't change the people around you, then you have to change the people around you. And look, I'm not claiming to be a social expert, because I'm far from it, trust me. But from my experience, I think the best way I've been able to find like-minded people is to talk about things you're actually interested in and do activities you're actually interested in. Because if you're just doing and saying the things that you think people will like you for, then you're only ever going to attract the people who are interested in those things, which aren't the things that you're actually interested in. So you're just gonna continue to feel like you don't fit in. And by becoming the person you want to become and doing the things you want to do, you end up just naturally attracting like-minded people. So brother, just give it time. And see, one of the things that I also know is so mentally challenging about this chapter is that there is no guarantee of success. And at times in the past, that doubt would cause me to think, what's the point of improving? Why don't I just settle for average? But then I'd remind myself, that's not the direction I want my life to go. And about 8 months ago, one of my friends made me realize that fact. He helped me realize that you ultimately have the choice to decide which path you want to take. And I could say while leading up to this dramatic event that the pace of the walk was picking up because the air was so tense from the menacing rain that was pelting off my hood, and there was suspenseful accelerations from the cars passing by, but nah. We were just walking on a regular day, and I hate to admit it, but I was moaning about doing this uni work I had to do, and mid-vent, he just interrupted me and said he'd no sympathy for me because it's your own decision to be in this degree, so why are you complaining? And look, he was right. What he said made me realize, yeah, there is nothing and nobody holding me back but me. So brother, while I know this chapter can be scary, even lonely at times, learn to enjoy the process of becoming better, because all of this is just creating you into the person you want to be. So laugh at the confusion, because like everything, this chapter is going to pass, and you'll most likely look back on it with satisfaction, thinking that is the point where I was faced with only two directions: go forward or go back. and I chose to relentlessly move forward. Through hard work we grow. Peace.